Okay, let me just see. Are we live on you? Yeah, YouTube is up and we're recording, so go ahead. I got some more people to let in.
Okay, Joanna, and thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. And welcome everyone to the November 6th, 2024 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We will open with the roll call. Mr. Chiocchio.
Here.
Ms. Hofstadter. Helen? You're muted still.
I'm getting there.
There
Sorry,
you go.
here. I am here.
I can see it. Mr. Sylvain is absent. Mr. Haas?
Here.
And the Chairman Finaldi is here. We do have a quorum, and since we don't have any alternates, we will not seat anyone for Mr. Sylvain this evening. I'm going to read the standard Zoom introduction. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have an opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches do sometimes occur. Please be patient if that happens. I wanted to mention before we get too far to the agenda, our agenda under continuation of public hearings showed two items this evening. The second one was Riedel Diedel Realty LLC. And I wanted to make sure I announced at the beginning that we will not be hearing any testimony on that particular application this evening. We have received a request from the attorney representing the applicant that we continue that hearing until our next meeting, which we will do. I will read the letter from the attorney at the appropriate time, but I just wanted to let anyone know if they happen to be participating tonight because of Riedel Diedel Realty LLC that we will not be hearing any testimony on that particular application this evening. We will postpone the acceptance of the minutes. Those are still being drafted of the October 16th, 2024 meeting. Again, as a reminder, Commission members, we will be holding a special meeting on November 13th, 2024, and the next regularly scheduled meeting is scheduled for November 20th, 2024. With that said, we will move right to continuation of public hearings. Item 1, 3775 LLC, application for special exception site plan approval for 9 home cluster development, Section 4A6 in the RA20 zone, 1-3 and unnumbered lot, Pembroke Road, G08029, G08030, and G08098, special exception number 800. We received quite a bit of information on our agenda. The response to staff comments, revised site, the map set, revised planting plan, rock excavation recommendations and control measures, combined staff reports, and also, as requested by Ms. Hofstadter, I believe it was, we've received some renderings for this particular cluster. With that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Mr. Dodo.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Benjamin Dodo, licensed professional engineer, representing the applicant here, 3775 LLC. For the proposed project. Also with us here tonight is Ray Gennaro with Down to Earth Consulting. He's our geotechnical engineer. He was at the original meeting. And the owner of the property, Ed Killian, he's here as well tonight. This is a continuation of a public hearing back from September 18th. At that time, we went through, both Ray and myself went through the scope of the project, scope of our work, answered what questions we could at that time. The only thing at that time, we hadn't received all staff comments. So subsequent to that meeting, we received some additional fire marshal comments related to signage, and then also excavation and blasting. And we received an engineering department letter from Kelly Green. We responded in kind to everything. And I'm just going to touch on the response here, in addition to some additional information. I'll be happy to answer any questions from last time, because I know it's been a while, but I'm not going to repeat everything I said at the last meeting. So I'm going to go over my stuff first, and then I'll let Ray answer anything specific to the rock excavation and to the document that he had submitted. His trying to get the title of it. The rock excavation recommendations control measures dated October 10th. A lot of that is basically summarizing his presentation back from September, but just to put it in writing, because he did give you a lot of information at that time verbally during the meeting. So basically the plan, and I'm going to share my screen here. Actually, before I share the screen, I just want to talk about the comments, and then I'll go to the plan. We had comments from Fire Marshal Rosie, Razi, I think that's how you pronounce it, asking for an additional fire hydrant be added. We've done that, so now there's 2 on the property. And then they asked for some fire lane signs and striping. We've added that to the site plan. Let me get my drawings here. Let's see here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So basically at the in the cul-de-sac area here, around the entire cul-de-sac, we've added some signs and some striping to it, as was asked. Terry Tiemann had a letter about rock excavation methods, but I think Ray's document that his recommendations and control measures, I think, meets or exceeds all of Terry's comments in there. Construction services, we've addressed all their comments. We've added a concrete driveway apron instead of asphalt, and we've ensured or confirmed that we're not going to have any plantings between the sidewalk and the edge of curb, that it's going to be a grass or turf snow shelf there. Just want to say, in my response to construction services, item 4 was a typo on my behalf, so that could be disregarded. I just noticed that tonight, quite honestly. It was a cut and paste typo. It had nothing to do with this project. Sorry
You
about
mean,
that.
Ben, the one about Joe Balskis?
Yes,
Okay, got it.
that cut and paste, my fault.
No problem.
As we know, we don't have a traffic engineer, nor do we need one on this project. We have very limited trips, and the traffic engineer has basically already signed off on this plan. So that was from another project, Arnie. So Ally, I went over a lot of Ally's comments at the last meeting, but most of Ally's comments had to do with notes, both on the zoning table, added all the notes that she's asked for. I even added the variance that a previous property owner had secured for this property. Again, we're not using that variance. She just asked that variance be added on the plan. She asked us to show the parking, the available spaces, and we require about 18 and we provide 44. We're just showing that there are 2 garage and 2 driveway spaces in addition to the spaces in the cul-de-sac and between houses 2 and 3. We did submit a fire truck. This was one of Ally's comments, showing that the city of Danbury fire ladder truck could come into the site, navigate the site. and they can navigate the cul-de-sac as well. So we've done that. We have, Ally asked for some landscape improvements to be made. We've made those improvements. We've shown the site distances on the landscape plan that they don't conflict with the plantings, which I think that's why she consistently asked for that on these plans, just that you don't have nice site distances and then ruin it by putting a tree. You can see the planting plan was also enhanced along the frontage. In addition to the trees, some lower lying shrubs and evergreens were put in there. As I had mentioned at the first meeting, we want to keep the frontage here clear of high vegetation. So we've sort of positioned everything. And as I had mentioned at the last meeting, it's not just for the sight lines for us, but it's also for travelers along Peyton Air and Pembroke Road along this curve here that you can see across the corner. So engineering, most of Kelly's comments had to do with providing some additional information, some more supporting calculations, and some more details. None of Kelly's comments actually changed the site plan itself that we submitted. They had to do with showing the easements on the grading and utility plan. We've done that, as did our landscape architect, add the easements to the landscape plan, just again to confirm that we're not plopping trees down on top of water mains or sewer mains or anything of that nature. As far as adequate fire protection, subsequent to the last meeting, we did receive a fire flow test from the Public Utilities Department. There's a hydrant right out in front of the site that we're tying into that main, and adequate flow does exist in the system for fire protection. Single family houses detached like this only require 1,000 gallons per minute of flow, for the risks that they pose, and the system provides significantly more than that. Gave Kelly some additional information on the swale, on some calculations for the water quality device. She asked for a detail of what the rock excavation cut would look like. So here on sheet 3, you'll see in the middle here, we show how that works. Again, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the actual rock cut starts back from the property line. There's a safety fence on top of it, then the rock cut, and then we have the catchment area, which also functions as a drainage swale at the base. That's sort of here in the middle of the plan. We gave some more documentation on the water quality unit. One of Kelly's things that she asked for was, should we put a fence around the detention basin? In speaking with the owner on this, we thought it was a good idea to do that, so we've added a fence around there. Again, this basin is normally not going to have more than, say, a foot of water in the low end, but it still will, it's good not to have kids being able to walk in, play in it, touch the pipes, crawl in them, so the fence will prevent that. We've added a gate to the fence. And then one of Kelly's comments also was, how are you going to maintain this basin? How are you going to get access to it? The site is relatively flat in the area that the detention basin is in. So what we did between house 2 and 3, we've made it even easier to access it. Those 3 parking spaces here between house 2 and 3, I just took the curbing off where the bumpers of the cars would be. So if you had to get into the basin, with a truck or an excavator or a mower or anything like that, you could just go on the lawn right between those units. There's plenty of space between the houses. There's about 17 feet, which is plenty of room to get to the basin right from the road. So again, we don't need to access the detention basin from Pembroke Road or Route 37. We can access it from the site at a relatively level grade. If you look at the contours between the units, it's almost dead flat getting from there to the basin. So, and again, I just want to reiterate that none of the engineering comments that we've addressed required me to change anything with the site, whether it's the site grades, the location of the houses, the road, et cetera. They really had to do with utilities, details, and some notes. I've already shown you the landscape plan. So as Arnie had mentioned, Helen had requested some perspectives of the site, and we were able to get them. It was a little tricky trying to get them in time for the meeting, but we did have some done, and I'm gonna share those with you now. Let's see here. Share screen. New share. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is, I just want to make it a little bigger here, but I want to still be able to. Okay, this is the view from Pembroke Road, looking to the site. To the right is the detention basin. You can see behind the plantings and the trees. You see houses 1 through 5. From this view, you see the back decks. You're basically standing across the street, looking at the site. In the background, you can see the ledge cut. As I had mentioned at the last meeting, out front, the front portion of the site, we don't have much rock excavation. To the left of the main driveway, to the left of this screen, it's a relatively flat area with the existing businesses next door. So the rock cut is sort of in the background. And then if you look off at the edge of, let's see here. If you look off at the edge of house 5, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th house, you'll see that there's a sort of a 90-degree bend in the ledge cut that corresponds with the way the property line jogs and the ledge jog is. So this is sort of what we would anticipate it looking like. Let me get to the next slide here. So the next picture is standing right after house 2, when you come up the driveway and the driveway turns to the right, looking down the road. So on the right, you see house 3, 4, and 5. And on the left, you'll see house 6 through 9. And then in the background is the cul-de-sac and the ledge cut in the background as well. Again, what you do see is you see the rock cut that we said. There's some vegetation up on top, both existing and ones that will be planted and will eventually grow there, and also, some of the neighbors' property in the background. And then the next one would be, this is view 3. This is standing at the cul-de-sac, looking sort of between house 9 and then the pool house and the recreation area to the right. You see the swimming pool and then the tennis court. Again, with the ledge cut in the background there. I hope this satisfies those requests, just to get a sense, because sometimes when you do look at a plan, for someone who looks at them all the time, it's one thing, but and I just want to show this share too. You can see here on the bottom of the plan where the ledge cut turns to the right at 90 degrees. That's sort of where I was talking about. The property is sort of shaped like an arrowhead. So the stem of the arrow, where the first 3 houses and the detention basin are, we really don't have ledge cuts. We have, sort of normal grading. And it's not until you get toward those bends in the property lines where you have those 90-degree bends that you do have some of the ledge cut. That's why you see some of it in the background in some of these images. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has, or if something I didn't cover, please remind me, and I'd be happy to.
I think I see Helen's hand up. Helen, go right ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you for those renderings. They were very helpful for me. I hope for the other commissioners as well. Gave me a much better perspective of, the drama going up and down, Can you point out on this diagram that we have in front of us right here, where the high point of this wall is? I think I know it's kind of near that circle thing, but.
It's actually kind of the highest point. Let me just look on here. Because I did take some notes here. The highest point that you would be if you go between, can you see my cursor here?
Yes, I can.
Okay. This part right here is about 48 feet at this
Wow.
point.
Okay.
And just to get a sense, over in this area here, it's about 30, 31, 0 over here, and then it sort of turns the corner. 0 over here, and then it gets to about 6 to 9 feet over here. 20 to 22 here. And then, yeah, as you get to the back, 36, 45 feet. So it varies depending on where you go.
Yeah, but it's the height, where it's the highest seems to be away from, directly behind the houses, like particularly the one that's right near that cut, the 90-degree
Oh, yes.
cut, right?
Yes, that one's only 25 feet high near that where it's closest to the house.
That's,
And then house 9 and, oh, excuse me, house 5 over here is about 25 feet cut. And as we had said, there's the house doesn't sit right against it. The house is, just to get a sense of it, these houses are, let's see. Yeah, it's probably 12 to, no, it's probably about 15, it's probably about 20 feet to the base of the ledge cut, about 20 feet.
okay, so that's,
And as Ray had mentioned, there's a catchment area there as well, that the detail, it's going to look like this here.
so
so-
can I ask, and I'd like to ask another, what is the degrees, off from like vertical for that, just what you just showed there with the retention, yes,
We're showing a 4 to 1, so I gotta do the math on that. Inverse tangent.
It's like 72, 73. This, for the record, this is Ray Gennaro, Down Earth Consulting, geotechnical engineering
Okay.
sub-consultant for the project.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 75 degrees, I calculate, so.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
so
and
one of the-
that's
Yeah.
generally all around the whole thing, or, I mean, you're trying.
Where-
correct.
Where there's ledge, Helen, where there's not ledge, we're grading it at a minimum or at a maximum of 2 to 1 slope. Like if you look up on top of it, where you get closer to the property line, we're grading the soil, but where there's ledge, we are going on a 1 to 4 slope.
Mhm.
Okay, and so, and the basin down below, so I have a concern about that, in that, like, say you have children in this, development here. I
Mhm.
mean, a big tall rock I know this for a fact, because I have a big tall rock in my own backyard. It's very attractive to kids, and it, wouldn't surprise me if you saw some of them, hike up, around the ledge, up to the top, put a rope up there, throw it down, and then try to climb it, so is there any protection at all for something? I know the parents have to keep track of their children. I totally get that, but is there any protection here for that kind of thing going on? Or is it just
Well-
a swale and ditch, whatever?
It's a swale, it's gonna be grass line, but we do on the top, if you look at this detail here, we do have a 5-foot high chain link safety fence above the rock cut, so that really prevents people from walking from the high side and getting near the edge. And,
Right, that was another question, so
Yes.
thank you for that.
that's
but,
there. We
I'm
always do
talking-
that.
Yeah,
Climbing a 4 vertical, I'll let Ray touch on that. I've never seen people climb those. I mean, like you said, kids will try anything, but
Yeah.
but it's up to the parents, to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
them not to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so it's
Yeah.
basically just an open swale there and.
Yes.
But, and then the width of I can't read the fine print on here, which I'm sorry, I'm asking then. But
Sure.
like, what would be the width of the swale, so that
It's
it,
a minimum of 12 feet wide, Helen. So in some
Oh.
areas it's wider. Yes.
oh, good.
And that was also by design as well in coordination with Ben, right? So we discussed how the houses less oppressive of a slope, rock slope behind the house, but then you notice that the taller cuts are in these amenities areas. So there's actually, in addition to that dedicated 12 feet, there's an additional 12 feet plus in the back there in the amenities area. So it doesn't appear, won't seem to be oppressive in the back there in the amenities area.
Yeah, I noticed that was, yes, thank you. Okay, I guess that's it. I just wanted to present a safety concern or two there, just so.
No, and we did both. And normally, detention basins, it's hit or miss whether there's fences around them, but the more likelihood that there's going to be kids living here, 1 foot of water, is it enough to drown in? Yes. Will it mostly be dry? Yes. But kids get curious and they climb in pipes sometimes. And it just keeps them out of there, out of the detention basin. There's no need for kids to be in the detention basin. So we're putting the fence around there as well.
Okay, you're putting it down below? You're putting one?
Around the detention basin.
Oh,
there'll
no,
be
yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a safety fence above the rock cut.
Right.
And then there'll be one completely around the detention basin. It's hard to see, but it's right here, all around, and then one completely surrounding the rock cut.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much, especially for the renderings, and I want to thank Jennifer and Ally for helping me request those. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I'm glad we were able to get those to you, because those took a while to, when I say a while, a lot of time.
They're beautiful, though. They were
Yeah,
worth
I
it.
didn't do them. That's beyond my pay grade. So I'm too old to learn that software, Helen, at this
Me
point.
too.
Yes.
It looks like fun, though.
Yes, and you can see the how. I mean, we showed you the and it's actually part of the good thing about it too. At the last meeting, we did show you the architecture,
Yeah.
just the elevations of the building, but it gives a better sense of how nice these houses are actually going to be.
That's true. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I'll answer any more questions.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Ben.
go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Kyokyo has a question.
Yeah, so thank you. This is more about, I guess, more about the rock cut and blasting, so maybe it's more to Ray, I guess. So if I'm looking at what's on the screen right now, it looks like about 2/3 of the property, I guess, has lead that will be blasted. So can you kind of confirm that? And then can you give me a time frame of how long, like number of days that you think it'll take of blasting to take care of, to get it all out of there? And then kind of the quantity of rock and how many trucks per day you think are going to go out of there? It seems like there's going to be a lot of trucks coming out of there, and pretty heavy ones loaded with stone. And do we have to be concerned about any damage to the roads in that area there?
So I'll defer to Ben. I know we had discussions with the owner.
I can answer the questions on the
questions.
numbers, Ray,
Yeah,
if you want me to do that first.
sure. And then the other question regarding the quantity, I don't have that
I
off
have
the top
that.
of my
I have
head
that too.
as well. But my understanding is that so once the rock is fragmented, it's going to be direct loaded onto trucks. So that'll certainly make it a quicker operation in terms of rock excavation. And then in terms of the number of trucks and the quantities and whatnot, I'll defer to Ben.
Just to the applicant, be sure when you speak to identify your name and affiliation before you speak, just because Joanne takes the minutes and we have to make sure she knows who's talking. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to go. It's Ben Dodo speaking again. So basically there are, and I'll let Mr. Killian jump in if I say anything wrong here. But these are the numbers that we were roughly looking at, and they're approximate. And there's approximately about 120,000 yards of material that'll be removed, assuming 30 to 40 loads a day on average, truckloads. Again, there'll be no crushing or processing of the material here. It'll all be direct loaded into the vehicles and hauled off site. We think it's about a 300 working day project. Again, there will not be blasting every day. Ray, you could jump in on that. As necessary, with out of those days, how many you'd anticipate, and probably in the 13 to 14th month range for the project.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is Ray Gennaro, Down to Earth Consulting. Yeah, so blasting certainly, well, first off, the blasting would certainly conform to the fire marshal's permit requirements. The times, days would certainly conform to those. And it would be periodic, right? So the blasting subcontractor would arrive on site, drill, load, and detonate, and sufficiently enough to allow the earthwork subcontractor to then come in and remove that fragmented material. And then there's also a bit of cleaning of the rock. Obviously, we want to construct a rock slope that is safe and stable. So there's some, as the excavation progresses, there's some touching up the rock slope as it goes. So that's why it takes a little bit longer, right? We want to make sure it's done right. Again, safe and stable rock slope. That's our objective at the end of the day. And but again, the actual blasting activities would be periodic throughout that time frame.
And there was one more question about the roads I didn't answer, that Bob had asked. We're going to have to post a bond with the DOT for this project as part of the overall project. And if we damage the roads in this area, that'll just, we'll have to repair them if it is indeed us that does that. But right now, as I had mentioned, there's a curb cut there. There's a gravel drive. So the roads themselves, there's traffic like that going up and down this road all the time. So if there's no anticipated damage, but if there is at the apron or something like that, or if there's a weak spot in the curb cut, we'll just have to fix it as part of the project. And just a reminder, we're putting in new sidewalks and curbing anyway along the frontage. So we will be doing work at the end of this project, in the road and along the edge of the road.
Okay. All right, so if make sure I understood this right. So it's going to take approximately, give or take, about a year.
Yes.
There's going to be blasting periodically throughout, I guess, the whole year. And okay, I got if that's correct.
This is Eddie Killian, the applicant. Hey, Ben, could I just ask you to unshare that screen?
Unshare it, sure.
So the way this we'll look at this project is we'll go in and we might shoot, although there's 120,000 yards, we'll shoot enough to stay ahead of it. So it's not as Ray said, it's not a continuous, every day there's not going to be blasting. We might go in and drill for, 4 or 5 days, get enough rock to keep it going, and then shoot for like a day. And then it might be another month until we're back in there drilling, shooting. So it's not going to be a constant disruption to this neighborhood. Obviously there's going to be trucks in and out every day, but as far as the drilling and blasting goes, that's going to be very periodically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep.
Still your ball game, Ben. Are you anything else, or?
I think I've addressed everything, unless you want me to go over line by line in my letter, but I don't think there's any need to, Ally, correct? To do that during this hearing?
But Ben, is Ray going to talk at all about, the extra safety precautions and the extra things that you're doing in the area of blasting, the increased radius and things like that?
Yeah, Ray, why don't you touch on that with respect to Terry's letter?
Absolutely. So,
Yes. Thank you, Arnie.
for the record, Ray Gennaro, Down to Earth Consulting. So back in September when we met, and I vocalized a lot of the recommendations and the measures that will be implemented in order to again, at the end of the day, make sure the rock excavation is conducted in a safe manner and using the prevailing standards. Ben thought it was a good idea for me to summarize my discussions back in September. And during when we had submitted that rock excavation recommendations and control measures memo, that's when we received the fire marshal's comments. And as Ben alluded to earlier on this evening, everything in that controls memo meets or exceeds the minimum requirements that the fire marshal. For example, in that letter, he recommended a pre-construction survey radius of 300 feet. We're going to do 500 feet. And he also wanted to have a pre-blast meeting that'll certainly take place. And the letter basically summarizes some of the other measures, a test blast, doing the vibration monitoring, basically all these belt and suspenders measures to, again, make sure that the rock excavation is occurring in a safe manner in accordance with prevailing standards. And again, everything is summarized in that memo. And yeah, I mean, there's, yeah. Any other questions during the rock excavation?
I just want to repeat back that what the applicant is doing meets or exceeds, in every case, the minimum requirements put forth by the fire marshal, who has standing in jurisdiction over blasting. That's a fair and accurate statement.
100%. Yeah. And essentially that's why we got involved, right? Okay. Because the blasting subcontractor could certainly, and the applicant could certainly do that without us, without our involvement. But again, we're kind of coming in because of the sensitivity of the project as well. And again, just in general, in the area of the city, we want to make sure that again, this is done as I keep mentioning, as safe as possible, but also minimizing impact to the surrounding, the neighbors and whatnot.
Thanks. Thank you, Ray, for those comments. Any more questions for Ray? Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in, Mr. Gucker, is that your hand up? You can go right ahead.
Thank you, and sorry for my tardiness. My computer was not behaving tonight. In fact, it wanted to do all kinds of updates, so I wound up getting here a bit late. I did catch the latter half of the presentation, and I've already expressed a lot of the concerns that I had, but I was asked by the neighbor next door, the Kennedy family, who was not able to make it tonight. The first time they tried to attend the meeting, there was computer errors to where they were cutting in and out, and they weren't able to testify. What they have tonight is they both had the flu, so they're not really willing to get on, even though Zoom kind of allows us to kind of get on when we're sick. They're just not feeling it. A lot of their concerns are many of the concerns that I had already raised, which was, the blasting. All of this is going to happen basically 20 feet from their property line. Their house and their residence is extremely close. What they've asked, which I know the applicant has talked about, is monitoring. I will also say they operate a small business there, to where they have a small machine shop and a lot of the equipment that is there is balanced and very sensitive to movement, vibrations, and other things. CNC machines and other things that, range in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So part of the concern that they have, besides this disruption of, the blasting that will be happening, is the vibration, and will it affect, or will it shift, or will it do anything to, their operation? Part of the concerns that I see, we're talking about 10 months of disruption, just basically clearing this out. So for 300 days, the neighbors will be dealing with, the on and off construction, the massive amount of trucks entering and exiting, this facility. And as well as somebody who, the end of my road is actually going to where I come out every day, will be just a mere 100 feet or so away from this project. I can recognize and tell you what the traffic patterns and situations are going to be, and I'm not sure with all of this disruption how it's going to affect all of that. I am encouraged by the bonding being put up for the roads, for DOT, as far as making sure that the state highway is kept harmless of this. But at the same time, also, what are the safety and the concerns and the quality of life issues dealing with the neighbors as far as the blasting, the construction, and of course the amount of trucks coming out. I mean, 10 months of this is a bit extreme. Now I know, there's a lot here, but again, those who are living around it, dealing with that, it becomes a bit much to deal with. The other thing I've raised earlier, I question, the true intent of a cluster development. And I'm probably not 100% up on this, but I know as somebody who is hopefully understands cluster development, the original idea or intent of a cluster development was for basically land preservation and open space preservation. A lot of times we look at development, and we could look at a parcel of property and say, well, we can clear cut everything out, and we can put in, for example, in this parcel, we could put in 10 houses, and we could put in 10 driveways, but the amount of disturbance to the environment really doesn't serve any kind of preservation. So the idea of cluster development, of being able to move the structures closer together in order to, hopefully preserve the environment, preserve some of the natural beauty that may or may not be there. Part of the idea of giving the applicant, the closer setbacks is to do so. In this particular case, I find it a little bit troublesome, only because we're basically clear cutting this thing right to, not to the property lines, but pretty close to where I'm not sure if clear cutting and blasting and cutting down to then replace and replenish is really the same as actually preservation. So I have a bit of questions as to that. But again, I wanted to, at least voice the opinions of the Kennedy family. Like I said, they are the direct neighbors. They will have the largest amount of property line along this project, and their concerns of, what is their quality of life going to be with basically 10 months of, not even really construction, but of, removing this material. And anybody who watched what happened at Stetson Place, as far as the noise, the amount of trucks, and, just the general listening to it 24/7, it kind of really cuts into, quality of life. But again, also being 20 or 30 feet from this project, it really cuts in. So those are the concerns. I would ask that the applicant reach out to that family once they are better, once they are feeling better, to see, is any of that equipment that they have sensitive to this? They believe it is. What are the remediations as far as if anything goes wrong? What is their keeping them held harmless during this project mean? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gucker. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, commissioners. Mr. Chairman, I am along the lines of Mr. Gucker as far as the concern for blasting. Let me back up a second. Dwayne Perkins, 22 Main Street. I'm a member of the Danbury City Council, serving Danbury's 5th Ward. I have no doubt that this process will be in accordance with the fire marshal and all other measures and standards. I have no doubt that that will be adhered to. My concern is the proximity of neighboring homes. And, deeply concerning just now, as I heard the closest home is, I think Mr. Garker said 20 feet away. I know from past experience that there was some blasting, and I'm going back now, over on Hospital Avenue. I also have a relative that lives in the southern part of the country, and in both instances, those homes sustained foundation damage, cracks in their foundation, and one of the homes had a crack right through the living room floor. And my question, Mr. Chairman, is what recourse would the neighbors have if their homes were to sustain damage from this blasting? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. I'm going to postpone a response to your question until I get all the opposition, and then I'll give the applicant a chance to respond one and done to everybody. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone else in opposition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
Chairman,
Go ahead, Paul.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury, just to echo, also on the Common Council, just to echo Councilman Perkins, I represent the 6th Ward and the Reserve, where there's been extensive blasting and where the chairman lives, so he knows all about this. And it has resulted in countless outreach from residents to the city council, to myself and my running mate, partner in the city council, Ben Chinazy. In the 6th Ward, there's a couple of things that the city can do, that the applicant, the petitioner can do to mitigate. One is, I believe in the Reserve, they shot high definition video of the surrounding properties with the property owner's permission. These would be inside basements and things like that, to create a baseline, so that if there were implications or accusations of cracked foundations and things like that, they could go back to the videotape. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to maintain a very close relationship with City Hall, so the city can then use a reverse 311 to contact the property owners during or preceding blasting. Like on Tuesday between 11 and 3, we're going to be doing some blasting. I can't speak to the trucks and the people that live 75 feet away, and guys rumbling in and out all day long and removing overburden and whatnot. But in terms of specific blasting, I can tell you from long and unhappy experience that regardless of what the petitioners do, the developers do, there will be a lot of friction with the neighboring homeowners, and the longer the blasting continues, the higher the level of friction is going to become. So one of the ways we attempted to mitigate this was to facilitate meetings between the petitioners and the neighbors, and that seemed to help a lot. It just opened up an avenue of dialogue. And this is not my ward, and I was not even intending to speak, but since this came up, and I've got some experience with this in the last year or so in the Reserve, I thought I would add that people might find it helpful. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rotello. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, hold on a minute here. Ally, in summary, we have heard from the fire marshal. We've heard from the deputy fire marshal. Construction services, Rob Barone. Vera at traffic, we've heard from him. We've heard from engineering and Kelly Green, but before I wrap this up, I want to ask the applicant, you've heard Mr. Gucker, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Rotello, so I'll ask either Ben or Ray or Mr. Killian if they have any comments based on the opposition questions.
I'm going to let Ray specifically talk about the equipment in the Kennedy's house, whether that could be part of a pre-blast survey. A
Yep.
lot of Councilman Perkins and Councilman Rotello's questions, I think Ray went over at the first meeting. I don't think they were there at that point. So maybe Ray can just briefly summarize some of the protocols, Ray. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Paul and Dennis can hear that. And then when Ray's done, I will try to answer Mr. Gucker's comments about the cluster development versus a traditional subdivision, because I feel like we've gone over this, but I just want to touch on it again, how we got to the point where we are right now, from when this project first started and we're looking at a traditional subdivision.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
This is Ray Gennaro, Down to Earth Consulting. Yeah, so I'll touch on everything, Mr. Gucker. That is, he expressed, and please extend my wishes to the Kennedy family. Hope for a speedy recovery. The concerns regarding the equipment, the on-site small business that's operated out of there, that's exactly one of the reasons why we do these pre-construction surveys. And that's what Councilman Rotello was alluding to as well, right? So everyone within that 500-foot radius will be given the opportunity to do a comprehensive pre-construction survey where the engineering firm goes out there and requests permission to not only document the exterior, but also the interior of the homes using HD video and photos as well, to particularly document existing distress, for example, existing cracks. I will say I am not concerned about whatever equipment is in the Kennedy's house. I was retained by Entegris on Commerce Drive about 6 years ago now. There was some blasting going on at the hotel down below, and they have some very sophisticated equipment there. That is why they retained us. And I can share that basically the same level of seismic monitoring and care that we used out in Entegris on Commerce Drive will be utilized on this project as well. But again, that pre-construction survey, once we are hopefully allowed to enter the Kennedy premises, we can document not only their concerns, but the equipment. And then we're going to use that information to develop part of that blasting plan and to develop the threshold levels for what an allowable vibration levels would be for this project. Also, Mr. Gucker expressed some concerns regarding disturbance. One of the things I noticed when I visited the site is the Kennedy parcel, that the rock was also excavated on their parcel as well. So where we have our 48-foot cut, there's actually a natural rock berm right there. And that is going to, a lot of the noise, the disturbance, that's going to serve as a natural barrier in essence. So the Kennedys will, that natural feature will afford them some mitigation for that disturbance. I believe that's everything Mr. Gucker had expressed, but certainly assuming the approvals are afforded to the applicant during the pre-blast meeting, we'll certainly, and any stakeholders, neighbors, whatever, will be brought in. I thank Councilman Rotello's input there. I think certainly when it comes to rock excavation, we discussed at the last meeting in September, right? Humans can perceive vibrations at orders of magnitude lower than threshold values that will actually create damage, right? I think I brought up that example. In Jersey, we had that earthquake. Everybody felt it up here, but it didn't result in damage to our structures here. So I think some open dialogue, certainly we'll look into that reverse 311. I'm not familiar with that, but again, open dialogue. Councilman Perkins also expressed some concern regarding what protections are in place if damage has occurred. So we do the blast conditions survey for all these neighboring parcels. After that 360-day period, the rock excavation period, we go back and document post-construction conditions where we can say, yeah, this was pre-existing, or no, this is, something happened out here, right? And attached to the rock excavation recommendations and control measures is a specification that will be part of the contract documents, and it describes the blasting subcontractor, the insurance that they would be required to carry if by chance, and again, accidents do happen. We all understand that. That's why, the multi-billion-dollar insurance industry exists, and they will be required to carry associated liability insurances. And I believe I touched on everything. If anything pertaining to rock excavation, any additional questions, be more than happy to entertain that now. If not, I'll turn it over to Ben to address the cluster development.
Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. For the record, Benjamin Dodo speaking again on behalf of the applicant. Whoops. I just turned you guys all off. Sorry about that. So I'm going to sort of start with the cluster development versus a traditional subdivision. When we first looked at this, and I'm going to just talk about where we are now with an RA20 zone. I'm not going to get into what the property was previously zoned, et cetera. It was previously zoned R40. It was changed to R20, and we came in front of the zoning commission for that. We presented a plan that looked almost identical to the plan that we have here. Thinking that if we tried to do a traditional subdivision here, there would be two outcomes with a traditional subdivision. You'd either have a bunch of driveways going onto this sharp curve that has poor sight distances. Whether it's one developer or 4 developers or 8 developers that would build at different times, that would be an option. I think all of you are familiar with the driveways that currently exist on Peyton Aram and Pembroke Road from this site south. There's about 10 or 12 driveways south of here that sit on single family houses with frontage that have their own driveways. And that was something we wanted to avoid for those of you who have ever used any of those driveways or seen someone come out or had to take a left turn with a bad sight distance. So we felt the cluster development was the best. And also it doesn't, this what looks like a road here is a private driveway. So the access points are limited to one. And there's no guarantee that if you did a traditional subdivision, whether it be a town road, that you wouldn't still have this rock excavation. And as far as clustering the houses together, instead of the open space that Mr. Gucker was talking about, we're doing usable open space for the residents. And that's something that it's also encouraged here on this property. It's no different than when you have another residential development that requires open space. That open space can come in many forms. And we thought this was the best for the residents here. To have open space for them to use. We thought it was a win-win and was really applicable to the site. Then the comment about the Kennedy's house being 20 feet from the property line, I think that's what Mr. Gucker had said. We're excavating 20 feet from our property line. Can everyone see this Google map I have here?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to show you something else then. I'm going to, let's see here. trying to get to a drawing here that's just not getting there for me. Hold on. GIS, there it is. Can everyone see this map?
Yes.
Okay. When you saw me disappear when the opposition was speaking, I was looking for this map because I don't have a survey of where the Kennedy's house is. But just to get a sense, where my cursor is, here's the Q restaurant. Here's this, the GIS calls it Paden-Aram, but this is really Pembroke Road. Paden-Aram cuts off to the left here. This is the old dog kennel, and this is the old retail building on the site. This is the Kennedy house right here.
Oh, wow.
Here's the property line, our property line. And I just did it using Google Maps while I was here, but the Kennedy house sits 100 to 110 feet from the property line. And then we're going to be excavating another 20 feet from that. So there really is a nice buffer there. So the fact that, you know, it's not like their house is sitting on their property line and we're excavating 20 feet from it. The Kennedys do have a couple of outbuildings here. I'm not sure if they're sheds or garages or whatever, but this shed structure closest to the property line here, that's about 50 feet from the property line. Okay. And then as you can see in the areas that we're doing our excavation, there and over here, there's really, you know, it's not like we have neighboring houses sitting next to us. So I think with what Ray said with the pre-blast survey, and if you can include checking out this sensitive equipment, whatever it may be, as part of it, that's something that can be incorporated into the plan. But the bottom line is the cluster development site plan, we felt this was the most appropriate use for this site, as opposed to having multiple driveways or big lots that you're putting the houses way in the back of the property. And as you know, when you have individual houses on full-size lots, instead of half the distance, there's no open space that everyone can share. Everyone starts jamming their pools and their, you know, and their patios and their decks. This gives everyone a comfortable place to live, and then also a nice open place that they can, you know, recreate and, you know, either and without getting in their car. They can literally walk there or get in their car if they're real lazy. We have sidewalks throughout the site. We have sidewalks along the frontage that are connected to integral sidewalks to the site. The road grade is at about 5% grade. It's a comfortable walking grade. If a parent is pushing a kid in a stroller or on a bike, it's not a severe steep hill that's dangerous for children to play on. And again, it's not a through road either. So it's really going to be a comfortable place for the people to live and recreate at. And that's really all I have.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Ray, for that clarification. I appreciate that, and for responding to the opposition. Okay, Ally, getting back to you. I mentioned briefly, all the departments seem to be in: fire marshal, deputy fire marshal, construction services, traffic. Just, Ally, just to make sure, engineering, you spoke to Kelly Green, and she's, even though there's a couple of minor engineering issues that are open, they're not showstoppers, and she's comfortable with us closing. Could you speak to that?
Correct. Yeah, she is comfortable with us closing. As Ben said, they're mostly comments on clarifications and details. Nothing major to the site plan will be changed.
Thanks, Ally. Thank you for that. Okay, commission members, unless there's anything else, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Thank you, Helen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kiokio. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? This particular public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kiokio.
I'll make a motion to move this application to old business for discussion and possible action.
Thank you, Mr. Kyokyo. A motion's been made to move this petition to item 1 under old business for discussion and possible action. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, I will second.
Second by Helen. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This matter will be moved to item 1 under our old business agenda. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, there was another application under continuations. Riedel Deedle Realty LLC, application for special exception, site plan approval for sale or rental of automobiles and trucks, Ineos Grenadier Auto Dealership Service Center, Collision Center in the IL40 zone in accordance with section 6A2B13 of the zoning regs, 17 Marybrook Road, G18019, special exception number 802. We received the following letter on November 6th, which I will read into the record. Chairman Arnold DiFinaldi Jr., Planning Commission, City of Danbury, 155 Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut. Attention, Ali Smith. Continuance of public hearings, special exception 802. Special exception to site plan applications for floodplain permit. Property, 17 Marybrook Road, Danbury, Connecticut. Applicant, Riedel Deedle Realty LLC. Dear Chairman Finaldi, my firm represents the applicant and property owner Riedel Deedle Realty LLC, the applicant in connection with the above captioned applications, open parentheses, the applications pending before the Planning Commission, the Commission. The public hearing for the applicants was opened at the Commission's meeting on October 16th, 2024, to be continued to tonight, November 6th, 2024. Please consider this correspondence as the applicant's request to continue the public hearing until Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, the Commission's next regularly scheduled meeting. Since opening the hearing, the applicant has continued to receive comments on the applicant's materials from city departments, and additional time is required to incorporate these comments into the final plans and materials. We also ask that the continuance be announced at the Commission's meeting tonight with instructions on how the public may access the November 20th meeting. Thank you for your time and attention regarding this matter. Please do not hesitate to contact me should you need any further information. Sincerely, Megan Miles, carbon copy, Bob Carinci, Development Team. So, Commission members, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to continue this until our next meeting on, actually, it's not our next meeting, to continue this matter until our meeting on November 20th.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Helen. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Haas. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move to old business for discussion of possible action. Item 1, go back here. 3775 LLC, application for special exception, site plan approval for 9-home cluster development, section 4A6 in the RA20 zone, 1-3 and unnumbered lot, Pembroke Road, G08029, G08030, and G08098, special exception number 800. The public hearing on that matter was closed tonight, which again, for the record, is November 6th, 2024. Commission members, would anyone like to comment or make any comments on the record regarding this application?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll
Please.
make a few. I liked, well, this plan is pretty well documented, okay? So I do understand that a lot of some of the concerns that were brought up have been addressed in the documentation. However, I do think it's helpful due to the conversations tonight from, Mr. Gucker, Perkins, and Rotello of the concerns for the neighbors and the blasting, that we encourage, if it's not covered in the plan already, specific communications with the neighbors. For example, it was brought up that, we do a baseline that's in the documentation, but it needs to be maybe explained to each of the neighbors. And I think that they are going to have meetings with the neighbors, but I'm not sure if there's a schedule or if we need more, or I would like to encourage that the meeting with neighbors occurs more rather than less based on what I heard tonight with the concerns. There was the idea about the 311 to notify neighbors of blasting. I don't know if that's, you know, how efficient that is. It sounds like it could be considered. And the maintenance of the rock wall, the maintenance of the area, but specifically the rock wall again. That is in the plan. I don't know what kind of enforcement mechanisms go around that. So I guess I'd like to encourage that that's strictly adhered to, you know, with timelines and some third party that's going to kind of oversee it if that's possible. So those are my concerns. Thought I'd just add them to what I consider a good plan for this. You know, it's the rock wall is a big challenge. I understand that, but it looks like a good plan to cover it.
Thank you, Helen, and thanks for the idea of renderings. They certainly helped us all get a better view for that. So well done.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to comment or any thoughts? I have a couple, but I'll wait for everyone else to go. Mr. Keough.
Sure. I think, you know, the blasting is what's really causing angst for all the neighbors, and I understand that. However, you know, the owner does have the right to develop the property, and it's pretty much the only way you can develop the property. And you know, there's 9 homes there, so there's much needed housing in Danbury. So I think that's helpful there. I think they do have a pretty good plan there to try to make it as safe as possible and address the neighbors' concerns as best as possible. And I think the applicant will work with the neighbors to do that. So I think they'll make them feel comfortable with that. And you know, overall, I think it's a fair development of the property.
Thanks, Bob. Anything else, Kevin? Any thoughts or want to agree with your commissioner?
Covered me.
Okay. Just by coincidence, I'm actually sitting at the summit right now. I'm sitting in my office, and if I looked out that window there to the left, I could almost see where they're building that rehab hospital. And I actually live on the other side of that in Rivington in Woodlands. So I've been next door, both my residence and my work, to a massive construction project with a ton of blasting that's gone on for the last several months. And, you know, I would say that, you know, there has been a lot of trucks going in and out of there, but it is what it is. I mean, it's nobody, I guess, likes driving behind a great big truck full of rock, but it's a temporary phenomenon. Now, luckily, that's wrapped up. They're setting steel over there now. I would say, as somebody that lives and works in this area, the blasting for that particular project didn't really disrupt anything. And remember, when they bring the trucks out of there, they got to wind through Reserve Road, through 2,000 residential condominiums, with people that are not shy about complaining, by the way, up here in Rivington. But the trucks leaving this site will be going down Route 37 a little better. I guess with regard to the blasting, a couple of things. I'm very happy that the applicant brought in a down-to-earth consulting. They didn't have to do that. The applicant volunteered to do that, and I'm very happy because I feel much more comfortable having heard about things like pre-blast meetings, pre-construction meetings, test blasts, you know, vibration monitoring. I think somebody mentioned HD video. All this is very good. It's important that these precautions are taken before a big project like this gets started. It's been a while. I don't remember, Jen, maybe you know, it's been a while since we've seen a cluster development of single family homes in Danbury. I can't remember the last one. And we've been doing this a long time. I mean,
Arnie, I'm sorry. The last one was Heatherwood Acres, Cotswold. That was a cluster development.
What year was that?
It was before COVID.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's good to see some small, hopefully affordable one-family homes going up in Danbury. I'm happy to see that. It's usually big condo projects like the one I live in, so that was good. We had a meeting last Monday night at City Hall, and Waleed was there, as was Jen and Allie, and Francisco Gomez did the majority of the presentation. He's the guy that put together our plan of conservation and development, and he again spoke and emphasized the need for housing in Danbury, and it's significant. And if you look at a lot of the recommendations that we're going to be seeing pretty soon to make changes in the downtown zoning, a lot of them are to encourage more residential development. We just need the units. It's a simple matter of supply and demand. And so I just wanted to get that in there too. So, but as I listen to the opposition, the primary issue is blasting. I do take comfort in what I heard from Down to Earth and from the applicant. And for that reason, I guess I'm in favor of moving forward with it. So Jen, Allie, have you got your comments? Okay, good. All right. Commission members, looking at our agenda, that was the only thing under old business. We have no referrals. There's one 8.3a under new business you can take a look at. Nothing under correspondence. And one last thing under other matters, I'm just, I can find it here. Pretty simple. Item 1, request for approval of bond release for Pondview Estates, Corner Pond Court, SUB number 14-01. And we have a letter here that's very brief, which I'll read. October 24th, 2024. It's addressed to Tim Nolan, Superintendent of Public Services, Highway Department, City of Danbury, Danbury, Connecticut, 06810, Re, Corner Pond Court. Dear Mr. Nolan, this is to advise you that documents acceptable to this office have been received and were recorded today for Corner Pond Court, which may now be considered a city-accepted roadway. A copy of the recording receipt is attached for your records. Please add this road to your list of city-accepted highways and arrange to begin city maintenance. Thank you. Sincerely, Robin L. Edwards, Assistant Corporation Counsel. Jen, do we need a motion on this or
Mr. Chairman, yes, you do. So at this point, what you'll do is, well, let me give just a brief background. So when Pondview Estates was approved 10 years ago, there was a sizable bond attached to it. The developer did significant work, requested that bond to be reduced, and the bond that we're holding right now is $199,875. And if you recall, over the past couple of years, we've had a request to extend the subdivision. We've received new letters of credit expanding out the time frame. When the petitioner requested that the road be accepted, it came to the Planning Commission as a referral from City Council, and Planning Commission gave it a positive. And part of that is making sure all of the paperwork is in place. And in this case, we didn't have all the paperwork, so we waited a fair amount of time for the property owner to provide, and Attorney Marcus to provide that paperwork to Corporation Counsel. So at this point, we now, as you can see in Robin's letter, we have all of that information. So the next step is to vote on releasing the bond, the letter of credit for $199,875. So there does have to be a motion to release that. Once it is released, there's a process. Joanne will send a letter up to the Finance Department, who will then start their process for releasing that letter of credit.
Thank you for that clarification, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Commission members, any questions for Jen on this matter of releasing the bond? If not, I'll entertain a motion, if you're so inclined, to a motion in favor of releasing the bond. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Kyokyo. Do I hear a second?
A second.
A second by Ms. Hofstetter. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The bond is to be released as per the letter from Robin Edwards. So thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, again, just a quick, that's about it for tonight. Quick reminder, special meeting on November 13th, 2024. Hope you can all attend. And then our next meeting after that is November 20th. So 3 meetings in November. Anything else, commission members?
Nope.
Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you. Good work.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.